Envoy of Lights presents Lopsided Minds, Final Reflection, Where the Seven Paths Return to One. Written and spoken by Dr. Sean Shamaradian.
In the name of the omnipotent, omnipresent, omnibenevolent, omnitemporal, and omniscient God, the most merciful, the most gracious, and the most compassionate, the eminence, the proprietor of patient, space, time, and beyond, the fiduciary, the adjudicator, custodian, and the high judge, the umpire of all there is and the non-existence, the holder of the truth, justice, and equity in the name of the Almighty God. In conclusion, the goal is not proving God with absolute certainty. The objective is to demonstrate that belief in God explains reality much better than atheism does. The cosmological argument explains why there is something rather than nothing. Correlating with basic logic, everything that began to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause. Modern physics supports the Big Bang, the expansion discovered by Edwin Hubble. The second law of thermodynamics, entropy increases, meaning the universe had a beginning. It must have had a starting point since this expansion is still progressing. If the universe began, the cause must be outside time, space, and matter. That cause must be timeless, spaceless, and immaterial, extremely powerful. A natural cannot exist before space and time, so the cause must be transcendent, fine-tuning of the universe. The laws of physics are balanced with extraordinary precision. For instance, the gravitational constant, cosmological constant, strength of electromagnetic force, the atomic forces. If these constants were changed even slightly, stars could not form, chemistry would fail, life would be impossible. Physicist Roger Penrose calculated that the odds of our universe being life permitted by chance are about 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 123 to describe the extraordinary precision of the universe's initial conditions. This number is essentially impossible to create the universe by chance. There are three explanations: chance, extremely improbable, utterly not a chance at all, necessity, no evidence that the constants must be that way. Design is the most rational explanation. Atheist physicist Fred Hoyle said, "The universe looks as though a super intellect has monkeyed with physics." The argument from consciousness. Matter alone could not produce subjective experience. But we have awareness, thoughts, emotions, moral intuition, etc. Neurons are electrical signals, yet they produce meaning, beauty, love, sacrifice, and reasoning. Philosopher David Chalmers calls this the hard problem of consciousness. A mind like a source of reality explains consciousness far better, he believed. The moral argument. If atheism is true, then morality is solely biological preferences or social conditioning, yet humans universally recognize objective moral truth. As genocide is wrong, cruelty is wrong, and wars of aggression are insane. Economic sanction kill children, causing malnutrition and other heinous crimes. Is that good? Of course not, unless one has lost one's mind. Murder, rape, and pedophilia are wrong. Justice is good, but objective morality requires a moral lawgiver. Philosopher Immanuel Kant argued that moral law implies a moral source beyond humans. Otherwise, morality becomes just opinion. The mathematical order of the universe. The universe is strongly mathematical, according to physicist Eugene Wigner. The unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. Why should abstract math perfectly describe reality? Because reality appears to be structured by intelligence. The existence of natural laws of nature are precise, universal, consistent, but laws imply a lawgiver. Random chaos does not produce elegant, consistent laws like those of gravity, electromagnetism, quantum mechanics, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. To understand that nothing is the way non-believers see it, has no power, no laws, no potential. Something cannot come from nothing. This question has puzzled philosophers from Aristotle to Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. Leibniz concluded that reality requires a necessary being, something that cannot fail to exist. Atheism must explain how unconscious matter created consciousness. How did chaos create mathematical laws? How nothing produced a universe, and how blind chance produced fine-tuned physics. Unless there is an absolute intelligence behind reality, an immaculate designer, if nothing existed, nothing could ever begin. Yet the universe, the cosmos, and beyond exist. Nothing means no matter, no energy, no laws of physics, no time, no space. The precise and orderly laws of the universe exist, but laws cannot explain themselves. Physicist Paul Davies once said, "The laws of physics seem to be the product of exceedingly ingenious design." Why does the universe obey elegant mathematical laws instead of chaotic randomness? How can unconscious particles create conscious experience unless they are designed to be highly aware, vibrating with meaningful frequencies, giving human beings meaningful attributes? If matter alone exists, why does a consciousness appear at all? Can science prove that only science can prove truth? If not, that statement is philosophical, not scientific. If atheism and evolution are both true, then our brains evolved only for survival, not for discovering the truth. Therefore, why trust human reasoning at all? If atheism is true, we have no reason to trust our own thinking. The atheist believes that the universe created itself. That is impossible, because something cannot exist before it exists. Professor Stephen Hawking assumed that laws of physics already existed. But laws themselves demand explanation. Non-believers believe the universe is the necessary thing rather than God. But the universe changes, expands, and could have been different. That means it is not necessary. Everything in the universe is contingent, depending on something else. The chain of dependence cannot go on forever, referring to regression analysis. Therefore, reality ultimately rests on a necessary being that explains everything else. That is what philosophers mean by God. When the atheist Bertrand Russell once asked, "Why does reality exist at all instead of absolutely nothing?" he just dismissed the inquiry and said, "The universe is just there, and that's all." It seems even the cream of the crop of atheists do not bother with deduction and minds of reason, indifferent to inference and what makes sense, not realizing that besides the scientifically known extremely complex events and situations in our universe, there are other stunning phenomena such as the multiverses and other universal wonders that have occupied the best minds of our time. The idea that every person lives in many universes at the same time comes mainly from a theory in quantum physics called the many worlds interpretation. It was suggested in 1957 by physicist Hugh Everett III. Starting in quantum mechanics, tiny particles, electrons, photons, etc., behave strangely. Experiments show that they can exist in multiple states at once. This is called superposition. For instance, a particle can be in two places at once or spinning both directions simultaneously. But when we observe the particle, we only see one result. This created a mystery. What happens to the other possibilities? Everett's radical answer is that instead of saying the other possibilities disappear, he stated something shocking. Every possible outcome actually happens, but in different universes. So when a quantum event occurs, the universe splits into multiple versions. The notion is known as the multiverse concept in physics. What this means for humans? Minds of reason should disclose that human beings are made of subatomic particles as well, only to vibrate at different rates. No spirit, thoughts, memory, or soul vibrates at the same rate as the physical body, not as the material world vacillates. Then we need to know that the whole is made of the sum of its parts. If the animated particles behave strangely in an invisible quantum domain, like the superposition exhibits, why should the human mind, intelligent and thought, memory, IQ, senses, feelings, emotions, and trillions of unseen, not tangible, or ever heard, tasted, or even felt cells be any different? There is a high probability that the soul maneuvers in several universes, in many states of being. Moreover, if the human soul does not function in other domains, acting in the heavens, it is because it is incarcerated in a human body, unable to behave as freely as it should until our physical body dies and is no longer active, giving the spirit, the soul, to behave as free as its nature is. Science believes that every time a decision or a quantum event happens, one universe where you chose A, another where you chose B, another where something else happened. So there may be a universe where you become a philosopher, one where you stay single, one where you move to other places, or one where you never have any of these experiences or conversations. Each version is a branch of reality. Why do we not see the other versions? Once the universe splits, they cannot interact again. This is described by quantum decoherence, in which the branches stop interfering with each other. So, in another version, you exist but are unreachable. what famous physicists think. For example, Richard Feynman explored strange quantum behavior that made ideas like this plausible. Sean Carroll strongly supports the many worlds interpretation today. Therefore, the multiverse idea is one possible explanation. In simple terms, quantum particles behave as if multiple realities exist simultaneously. Everett proposed that all those realities actually exist. Each possibility becomes a new branch of the universe. So theoretically, many versions of you exist across the multiverse. If many universes exist, is consciousness also split across them? Or is there only one awareness experiencing one branch? John Wheeler believed that the universe needs observers. He proposed the idea of a participatory universe, arguing that observations are necessary to bring the universe into definite reality. Wheeler believed the universe might be a system where observation plays a fundamental role. Information is more basic than matter, stating it from bit, meaning reality. It may come from information bit. He suggested a delayed choice experiment. The surprising implication: an observer's measurement can determine whether light behaves like a wave or a particle, even after it has already traveled through the experiment. In other words, observation seems to influence the description of the past events. This does not literally mean we change the past, but it exhibits how deeply observation is tied to reality in quantum mechanics, consciousness, and the multiverse question. Two possibilities arise. Option 1: many physical universes. Every quantum outcome happens. The universe split into branches. Many versions of you exist. Option 2: observer-based reality. Reality becomes definite only when observed. Consciousness plays a key role. The idea from John Wheeler inspired thinkers in philosophy and psychology, including Carl Jung, who believed consciousness might be connected to a deeper underlying unity of reality. That reality is fundamentally one unified field. Mind and matter may be different expressions of the same underlying reality. Feynman showed that at the smallest level, reality behaves as if many possibilities exist at once. Wheeler suggested that observers may help bring one of those possibilities into reality. Everett suggested that all possibilities happen in a different universe, implying about living in a multiverse, not confirmed, but insinuating such a wonder. Then the atheists, such as Richard Dawkins and the rest, offer insensible childish play, a so-called analogy of existence that happened by accident. Without any guidance, the infinitely mind-bending complexity beyond imagination has put many scholarly-minded scientists and philosophers in awe. Furthermore, some thinkers argue reality may not be purely material. Information or observation might be fundamental. The key mystery is that, at the deepest level of physics, particles behave like possibilities. Observation selects one reality. No one fully comprehends why. If reality begins as pure probability, something must explain why one specific outcome becomes real. At the deepest level, the universe may not be made of separate pieces. Instead, it behaves as a single connected system. Some physicists describe it as a non-local universe, where space separation is not fundamental. The universe is deeply connected. Information might be more fundamental than matter, demanding an unbounded intelligence, a superintendent designer. Reality may emerge from a deeper, unified level. This echoes the idea proposed by physicists like David Bohm, who mentioned a deeper order called implicate order, a hidden layer where everything in the universe is principally connected. Reality is not mechanical. The universe is a unified field. This is why many scientists, from Albert Einstein to Erwin Schrödinger, eventually began speaking about the universe with a sense of mystery and unity. Finally, if God does not exist, morality becomes nothing more than a biological instinct, a social convention, or a cultural opinion. In that case, genocide, ethnic cleansing, slavery, torturing children for fun, or any evil such as Epstein's file, cruelty, and other human atrocities are not objectively wrong. Then no moral obligation can make any sense unless humanity seriously gravitates toward the essence of correct living. Outrageous crimes and devastating violence will overwhelm the global order into the abyss of no return and wickedness, destroying us all, where power, force, and the laws of the jungle will dominate, manifesting the survival of the fittest scenarios. At the end, I would like to bring to your attention one of the most detailed explanations of death based on the research of Peter Fenwick, a neuropsychiatrist who spent decades studying end-of-life phenomena and near-death experiences with hospice patients, doctors, and families. First, the dying process often begins days or weeks before death. Fenwick found that dying patients begin showing psychological and perceptual changes before death. Common signs reported by nurses and families included talking about going on a journey, saying they will soon go home, losing interest in worldly matters, becoming calm and detached, knowing the approximate time of their death. These experiences appear across cultures and are part of what researchers call end-of-life experiences. Second, a deathbed vision, seeing deceased relatives. One of the most common phenomena Fenwick documented. Many dying people report seeing deceased family members or spiritual figures in the room. Typical description included, "My mother is here. They came to take me. Seeing people others cannot see." These visions usually occur hours or days before death and often comfort the patient. Patients usually recognize dead relatives, not living ones. They often speak with them calmly. Fenwick believed these experiences could not be fully explained by hallucination alone. Third, terminal lucidity, a sudden return of clarity. Another phenomenon Fenwick documented was terminal lucidity. Example, A patient with severe dementia or brain damage, schizophrenia, Alzheimer's disease, or a brain tumor suddenly becomes fully conscious and clear shortly before death. They may recognize family, speak normally, and say goodbye, then die shortly after. This has been observed even in patients whose brains were severely damaged, which puzzled neuroscientists. Fourth, the transition moment, the moment of death. Fenwick says the moment of death often involves a transition rather than a sudden stop. Medical events, breathing slows, brain oxygen drops, heartbeat stops. But witnesses frequently report something else, a sudden calmness, a feeling the person has left the body. Some caregivers say they sense the person is gone even before medical confirmation. Near-death experiences during clinical death. Some patients who revived after cardiac arrest report very similar experiences. Typical near-death elements: leaving the body, seeing a tunnel or light, meeting with deceased relatives, feeling overwhelming peace, reviewing their life, being told to return. Fenwick studied hundreds of cases and found these experiences. Drugs do not cause those. Occurs across many cultures, often permanently changing people. Consciousness may not stop immediately. The brain may not entirely produce consciousness. He proposed the brain may function more like a receiver or filter of consciousness. When the brain shuts down, consciousness may separate from it. This could explain near-death experience reports and end-of-life visions. This idea is not part of the mainstream consensus, but it is taken seriously in some consciousness research. One of Fenwick's most vital findings is the emotional state of the dying, being calm, accepting, free of fear, and deeply peaceful and tranquil. Fear is more common when death is sudden or traumatic. In simple terms, Fenwick concluded, according to his research, death often looks like awareness that death is approaching, vision of deceased relatives, a brief period of clarity or goodbye, gradual shutdown of the body, a peaceful transition. He believed death may be a change of state of consciousness rather than annihilation. He believed these phenomena strongly suggest consciousness might extend beyond the brain. Fenwick's research overlaps with similar findings from Raymond Moody, Sampania, and Carl Jund. Their work points to very similar patterns when people approach death, believing that death is not an ending bodily function, but a heavenly approach involved in cosmological awareness and eventuality.
This has been Lopsided Minds, a production of Envoy of Lights. The journey concludes. The reflection continues.